remember sitting with a doctor once and I said, you know, I'm not suicidal, but I don't really care if I wake up tomorrow. It was like taking cocaine for other people, if you will. And I'm really thinking, you know, I can't see me lasting much longer. I'm at my wit's end, I don't know who to turn to. And he said, how much coffee do you drink? And I was like, well, I don't know, like a couple of cups a day. And he was like, well, that's your problem. And I thought, right, okay.
You are a successful manual therapist and have treated some of the world's best athletes, although your journey to this point hasn't been straightforward. When did you discover you had ADHD, and how did that change your life?
Yeah, so the ADHD diagnosis was literally 2 years ago, and the reason I was diagnosed in the first place was because my girlfriend had been doing quite a lot of research into mental health, and every label you can imagine she researched and was really trying to pinpoint what was going on with me. I've had, you know, quite a lot of success in my life. I've also had quite a lot of disaster, and she was really struggling to understand what was going on in my head. And one day she sat down and she said, I think I've got it. She said, it's one of two things, and I'm hoping it's the latter. She said, either you're a psychopath or you've got ADHD. And I said, right, okay, that's quite worrying, because I don't think for 1 minute I've got ADHD. You know, at that point, I fell into the trap of looking at America, looking at, you know, hearing headlines like, you know, parents are, you know, giving their child Adderall and all these crazy drugs, and I just thought the same as everybody else, like, what on earth are they playing at, you know? They're just naughty children, they're not being parented correctly, and you know, how dare they sort of medicate, and it's all a shambles. And then, yes, so Chloe then sort of sat me down and said, right, do you know about ADHD? And I was forced to say and admit to myself, actually, I didn't really know anything about it. Getting a diagnosis, I've always known something wasn't quite right. Always felt different to everybody else. Thought it was just a quirk, an eccentric sort of thing. And so did everybody else, you know, because I can string a sentence together, and I'm fairly intelligent and educated. When I was sat with the people expressing how I felt, they didn't take it as being real. Do you know what I mean? It was like, I remember sitting with a doctor once and I said, you know, I'm not suicidal, but I don't really care if I wake up tomorrow, and I don't see the point in anything, and I'm really thinking, you know, I can't see me lasting much longer. I'm at my wit's end, I don't know who to turn to. And he said, how much coffee do you drink? And I was like, well, I don't know, like a couple of cups a day. And he was like, well, that's your problem. And I thought, right, okay. So it was like, I wasn't going in acting up, I wasn't going in self-harming, and nobody was taking me seriously, and it was just a complete waste of time. So in the end, I went private and I got a psychiatrist to confirm the ADHD diagnosis, and then I started taking medication. This is a path that for a lot of people is fraught with difficulty, because they don't always hit the right medication straight away. And if you don't, it can be a nightmare. It was a game changer. He put me on methylphenidate hydrochloride And basically it changed my life. Like, it's like, I try and describe it to people as I get up in the morning, I take the pill, an hour later I'm an adult. You know what I mean? Like, it's night and day. It really transforms everything about me. I can concentrate, I'm not doing stupid things, I'm not going around thinking negatively, but it's not, there's nothing specific that I can say it changes, but it sort of changes everything.
How was you managing before the diagnosis? And what were your coping mechanisms and self-medication?
Yeah, so I'm like 48 and I've been diagnosed since I was about 45. Essentially, for the longest time I was taking marijuana, and initially it helped a lot, and then I guess it got out of hand and became more destructive than beneficial. It was like the opposite. Most people, you know, they smoke and they're lying down on the settee, lethargic, they're watching TV. Whereas for me, it was like taking cocaine for other people, if you will. And people say, you know, you can't be addicted to marijuana or whatever. For me, it took years and years to get off it, actually, because I'd get off it and then all of a sudden I'd think, you know, I can just have a little bit and it'd be okay. And then my life would blow up again. You know, now I am, you know, I wouldn't go back to it for all the money in the world, but I don't need to, because I don't need a coping strategy because I'm medicated. Which is still hard to listen to myself say that as an adult, like, hey, you know, I'm okay because I'm medicated, because it's not really, you know, it doesn't go hand in hand with my profession. Most people in my profession are sort of anti-medication. I am not.
What's the biggest change since you had your diagnosis?
I think the biggest change really is that I'm kind of less scatty. I'm not doing things that are jeopardizing anybody around me or myself, because I'm taking into consideration others around me and how it would affect them. So how I'm not dead, I really don't know, because I just used to bimble around doing all manner of crazy stuff. You know, the autistic ADHD brain doesn't, it's all a spectrum, right? But if you're, you know, if you're sort of seemingly intelligent and seemingly able to string a sentence together and come across as sort of normal, but then there's one thing that's different, everyone thinks, yeah, that's just Damo, he's eccentric. But actually, you know, it is a problem. It's like night and day, really. I'm the same person. The medication doesn't make me any less me, but what it does do is it makes kind of everybody around me that little bit safer, and it makes me more aware of events and consequences of action, whereas before I would have just got on with it and thought, that's okay.
Impulsive.
Very, very impulsive. Like, you know, when you're impulsive to the point of deficit, I mean, it's one thing being impulsive and, you know, buying something at the till because it's there and it's on display, and it's another thing when it's like a drug. The problem is that you have an impulse to do something that you think is a good idea at the time, and it could be something big, you know, a big purchase. That's normally what it is a big purchase. It's like, you know, how can I release as much dopamine into my brain as possible? Oh, I know, I'll go and spend a lot of money. And then that has a massive consequence, because it might stop you doing something at a later date. It's like having a couple of little voices, you know, and one of them would be saying like, right, go and buy that Lotus. Yeah, but you're gonna start a family soon. That's not really the car to have a kid in. Yeah, but she's got a car, so we can use that when we're going out with the kiddie. Do you see what I mean? So it's like, you have these conversations and they last for hours. My brain's interpreted whatever that information is as do this. And I've gone and done it, and then I'm really confused when somebody comes and goes, what have you done? What have you done? I'm like, you told me to do that. No, I didn't. Yeah, you really did. Is everyone around me just insane? Like, what the hell is going on, you know? But it's just my brain. It's like verbal dyslexia. You know what I mean? It's like, I don't know what it is. It's frustrating is what it is. Do you know what I mean?
For any young men or women, what tips would you give them to overcome daily challenges?
Taking a substance like I did for a number of years to help cope is probably not the best thing to do. It feels like it is, but in the long term, like it is destructive. I guess the thing that helped me the most was the thing that I avoided for the longest time, and that was group therapy. It was the best thing actually, to the point where every Friday I still do a Zoom meeting with the original person. Something that I avoided for so long, it was so good. And they weren't all ADHDers, by the way. They were just people who'd lost their way and, you know, needed a bit of help. But it was absolutely fantastic. Meditation is great, absolutely wonderful. But what I would say is, in order to, and this is the top tip actually, in order to meditate, you don't have to sit there with your legs crossed, you know, chanting an om. My favourite one is juggling. I learned to juggle about 20 years ago. When you're juggling, you just can't think. You can't think about anything because you're concentrating on juggling. So anything that can take your mind off everything is the way forward. And smoking, marijuana, drinking alcohol does the opposite. Even though you think it's the best thing, it's not the best thing.
Thanks for coming. Thank you for sharing your story.
You're welcome. I hope it helps at least one person.